Got it.
Got it.
All right. So brief overview of what we're going to do. We're going to introduce ourselves. There will be 2 short readings from the book. We will have an interview with the author, and then we'll open it up to questions in the chat section from all of you folks. Now, some folks have read the book, some people haven't. We're not mad about that. So no spoiler alerts is all that we ask. No spoilers, even in the chats. All right. So the purpose of this little shindig is to celebrate Greta's creation and show her some love, and show some love to Split Open. So on this night of the full moon, let us all raise a glass to our own Greta Lind and the launch of her first novel, Split Open.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And thank you. Thank you all so much for coming. I know it's a big thing to take out time. We've got so much going on, and it really means the world to me to have you all here. I appreciate each and every one of you from so many different places and spaces in the world and my life. So truly, thank you.
So a little bit about your party co-hosts. I have known Greta since 1986 when we majored in theater together at the University of Illinois at an underground hellhole called the Cranert Center. And I am thrilled to provide this space for Greta and for all of you.
And I'm Anne. I know a lot of you, which is really wonderful to see everybody. So I went to college with Greta as well in the underground hellhole. Thank you, David, and thank you for saying the year. I really appreciate you saying the year. And I've been a longtime friend of Greta's. I got to be her roommate when she was in Los Angeles being an actress. And I have always been just a huge fan of your work. So I'm just so delighted to be able to support you on this, this new medium for you. And Laurie, I think Laurie may have already.
She muted. Do you want to introduce yourself, Laurie?
Sure. So I was in the same studio with Anne, David, and Greta, and gosh, I have affection for Cranert, so I don't know. But I've been hearing about this project from Greta for many years, and I feel like tonight is a culmination of a creative energy that's been in the works for our many years in our adult life. And so I'm just so proud of you, Greta. So thanks for letting me be part of tonight.
Thank you all so much. And it's so beautiful to be held this well and this lovingly by the 3 of you, and to be surrounded by folks and friends and relatives and dear ones from so many different arenas. Yeah, I wrote a book. I didn't actually mean to, and here it is. Part of its manifestation, I think we can thank the pandemic for, because I definitely went into a deep cocoon during that time and opened to the rewriting and publishing process with Beaver's Pond Press, which was an extraordinary experience. So thank you all, and yeah, let's continue.
All right. So now to the lady of the hour. Greta Lind is an author, an actor. She is a lifelong creative whose work spans diverse mediums, including theater, podcasts, television, film, where she has appeared on All My Children. Extra points if you can name her All My Children character in the chats, and don't Google it. She's also appeared in the hit film Rudy. Her recent work includes the audio drama series, The Ernie Pyle Experiment, which was a finalist in the Audio Awards. Greta has co-facilitated writing circles with young women writing for a change in Bloomington, Indiana, where she currently resides. She has also raised 2 wonderful boys into young adulthood. Anne?
Okay, and I get the honor of reading the synopsis of Split Open to give you all, so those of you that have read it, a little refresher. Those of you that haven't, here's a little taste of what it's about. Who am I? Kate faces the unthinkable when her son's school bus loses control on a hilly California road. Thrust into an unflinching journey of personal discovery, she questions her every life choice. Apart from wife, apart from mother, she questions her own grip on reality when she suddenly becomes aware of Jennifer, a respectable young wife and mother consumed in a powerful love affair. Kate can't explain who Jennifer is or why Kate knows what she knows. How can a person feel closer to and more disconnected from herself at the same time? In a pulsing exploration of womanhood and all that is sacred, Kate and Jennifer's worlds begin seeping surreally into each other as this book dares to ask, what is gained and what is lost when we have children? Where does a woman's loyalty belong? What happens when the invisible is made visible? So we're going to hear from a little bit of the book by a reading from both Greta and Laurie. And Greta is going to read Kate, and then Laurie will read Jennifer.
The opening. The sun is so bright, it almost hurts. I want to go home. Tired children chatter on the sidewalk. I feel a specific kind of post-field trip exhaustion in my bones. I lift hot hair off the back of my neck for relief. The school bus finally pulls up. As we prepare to board, the bus driver steps off, saying she needs to grab a cup of coffee. It's past time to leave the Santa Barbara Mission and head back to Ojai. Coffee sounds good. Just a few more minutes. A parent talks to me about volunteering. I half listen. There's a seamless moment when color begins to move gently behind her. As if I am one with the yellow, I simply say, the bus is moving. Then so am I, with the bus. I push the door open, climb on, and sit in the driver's seat. I am at the top of a steep hill. Just below lies a busy intersection crowded with pedestrians. They don't see. The bus is rolling. I scan. Large steering wheel, big windows, strange metal pedals. No emergency brake, nothing to pull or push to stop the bus. It's picking up speed. Step on the brake, a voice. Someone is running beside the bus. I don't know which pedal or what will happen. Nothing looks familiar. The intersection, they still don't see the bus. My foot lifts. I hold my breath. My foot lands. The brake pedal. Everything stops. I am frozen in the driver's seat. I turn to see the children and chaperones on the sidewalk, also still. The driver emerges, coffee in hand. Her face is ashen. What almost happened? We ride back home. Everyone is safe. Children whisper. I don't hear their words, only the whooshing inside my head. Questions come over the next 3 days. Right now, there is only one. Who was that woman? Without fear or thought. She jumped on a runaway bus and stopped it.
Thanks, Greta. As Jennifer chops onions, careful of her fingers and her tears, Lily's mom comes to pick her up. The play date was more than successful. The girls are finally at an age where a friend in the house makes things easier. The right friend. They leave and Jennifer's breath deepens. She looks in the refrigerator for an open bottle of wine. Thankfully, there is one. James will be home soon. The bottle, cold. The perfection of a single wine glass, fragile. How many has she broken in her life by being too rough, too rushed, by not paying attention as she washed and dried the curved, delicate vessel? This glass fits perfectly in the palm of her hand, stem dropping between fingers. The pour is her favorite part, and the first sip. Jennifer mixes chopped onion with other cut vegetables. She breaks an egg and adds ground turkey, something, and smushing it together, her hands cold to the bone from the meat. She remembers tomato sauce. She washes her hands, opens the can, and dumps it in. After molding meatloaf in the pan, Jennifer tops it off with ketchup and slides it into the oven. She sections potatoes into fours and drops them carefully in water to boil. She watches the pieces land underwater, drowning. A sip of wine lifts her. Once the broccoli is cut and ready to steam, she can relax. She can relax into the fact that she has no idea where her life is going, only wanting and reaching and fearing. Stabbing remorse, then quick defiance. Why shouldn't she have this? She didn't mean to. She wasn't seeking it out. She never thought she would be here. No one knew her capable. And as she thinks of it, Jennifer knows that a person can change the very moment she does the impossible. It is then not only possible, but already done. Jennifer takes her glass into the bathroom, just a look before he comes home. She needs to see what he will see. Sipping, staring, honey hair grown darker over the years, messy, tired, steel blue eyes. Jennifer remembers the coffee she forgot to have. Her face looks somehow transparent. High cheekbones and paper-thin skin, chapped lips. How swollen they were when she caught sight of herself earlier. There's an unmistakable sound, a car. Turning off the bathroom light, Jennifer takes her glass to the kitchen. Heart pounding in her ears, she begins to steam the broccoli and checks the potatoes on the stove. Soft enough. She uses the strainer, dumps them into a large bowl, and grabs the masher.
Thank you both so much for reading. That was beautiful. Greta, what a stunning book that you've written. And seeing everybody, seeing both of you reading and reading out loud and hearing that, it makes me think about your style of writing and how it really comes alive and it really feels, I mean, it feels like it's almost written like a movie or a play. Can you talk a little bit about your style and how you came about to have this kind of realistic style of yours?
Sure. I didn't know I had a style. I will say that when I worked with Carrie, my editor, she said to me after reading it that I already had my voice. And she said that's not something that can be taught. And she helped encourage me with that. So I think when you create something, you almost don't quite know what it is. So I can respond to your question to the best of my ability, but none of it was conscious. And I never really wrote before I started writing this. And the reason I started writing it was because the experience with the bus was 100% true. And I did not know what to do with it. I did not know who I was, and I could not integrate that experience. And for 3 days, looking back, I think I was in a kind of shock, and I didn't know what to do. And so I wrote it down on a piece of paper. And then this fictionalized story started coming through. And to be honest, it wouldn't leave me alone. And so I continued writing, and I'm not, if anything, I think I tend to underwrite because I like the directness of communication in life, if that makes sense, kind of the stripping down to the bare bones of it. So that might be some of what you're picking up on. And also, I saw the whole thing and I heard the whole thing. And paper was the medium that I happened to capture it on, and I wrote the whole thing longhand first. So that's the best I've got at the moment.
I've got a question for you, Greta. Touching on your previous work as an actor and now as a writer, what was it like adjusting from an acting career, which is usually much more of a group activity, to writing, which is a bit more solitary? What was that like?
I think they both require deep listening. I think creative work, whether it's solitary work or with others, requires a kind of stillness inside and a listening more than a saying, if that makes sense. So I can say that another similarity was allowing it to come through, and I have experienced that as an actor and as a writer, and allowing. So it's almost, I understand that it's an action to write, but it's almost a non-doing the thing before that action. And it was different to do something so solitary, and it required a lot of trust because I didn't know what I was doing. And the other truth is, even though I wrote this on and off for about 20 years, when I entered into the rewriting process, I wasn't alone. And Hannah and Carrie can attest to that, because I really asked for a lot of holding, and they gave it to me. And even toward the end, there was a day where I just was like, I don't know what this is. And it was very close to the end, and I don't think I can do it. And I expressed that, and Carrie said to me, step away before you burn it all down. And she was so wise, and I stepped fully away from it. And in 24 hours, I was back. And the holding that Hannah did the entire time with me was above and beyond. And I could not have done it alone. So I wasn't alone. And also, whatever this was that was coming through was something I was receiving, and I cannot claim it as my own.
So one of the qualities that you have that jumped out for me, and that we talked about for some other people, is this juxtaposition between the extraordinary event and then those very ordinary things. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Isn't that life? Don't we see a beautiful sunset and then, have to go to the bathroom? And especially, if we're parents, while our children are little, those ordinary moments are so specific and so minute, they're so tiny, and they're also extraordinary. And sometimes there are things that happen in life that are beyond what we can explain. And we get kind of short-circuited because our mind can't grab a hold of it and categorize it. And I think that's so beautiful. And I think sometimes those two things are different, the ordinary and the extraordinary, and sometimes they're the same. And it's all very fluid.
So when we were setting this up, you surprised Anne and me by saying that it never occurred to you until, of course, after the book was released, that men might read Split Open. Can you talk about that and who your perceived audience originally was and who it's maybe more becoming?
It literally did not even occur to me that any man would read this book. So I was very surprised when just as many men as women were responding, and I did not understand what was happening. And only in that moment did I realize that it had literally never occurred to me. So that's still interesting to me. I think it's another lesson in life. Don't ever make assumptions. I do feel that this is very much a woman's journey. So I guess that's the lens and place I was coming to, and it cracked me up that you were so surprised. So right back at you.
Oh, so you said something about the woman's journey, and you did some extraordinary things with motherhood. So, there's certain expectations of women, of mothers, and you really, you really explored a lot of different facets that we don't typically get to see of a mother. So I would love to hear more about your thoughts around that.
Well, I think as women, we often feel a severing of the parts of ourselves from our conditioning, from others, and then from within, because we have internalized those voices. And I think that magnifies when we become mothers. I think that we move from, we move into a space where this is what we're allowed to be or supposed to be, kind of this all-giving, all-caring nurturer, which is true, and many other things also are true. We continue to be sexual beings. We continue to be hungry beings. We continue to be sad beings, laughing beings, friends, lovers, full of joy, full of despair, exhaustion, even within that all giving. So that sometimes the moments we have for ourselves, especially in the thick of those child rearing years, are glimpses or moments like a bath or a sip of wine or taking a breath. And I think it's important for us to embrace the nourishment that not only do we give, but that we also need to receive. And vice versa for men, I would say too, that men give and men also receive. It's true for all of us. We're all human.
You had mentioned also when we were planning all this out that you had written the book and then brought in a racial bias sensitivity reader. Can you talk a little bit about the reason for doing that and what that experience was like?
Yeah, I'm actually really grateful for the timing of the rewriting process in terms of my own, well, I think culturally, and I think also for myself, I had gone through a racial bias sensitivity training workshop with Dr. Murray and some other folks. And I thought, well, since there is an important character who's Black in this story, I should probably run it by her just so she can have a look over. So I reached out to her. And we ended up going into a week-long deep dive that reorganized my innards and reorganized those scenes. And I'm so grateful because as a white woman, there were things I did not see. There are still things I do not see. And I had someone who is an absolute expert with 3 degrees who not only helped me look at what I didn't have my own understanding about, but she helped me find my way forward to uplift that character and also bring equitability between her and Kate in their relationship, in their friendship, in status. And it proved to be an invaluable process. And I'm so glad that I went with it. Talk about fluid. I didn't know often in the rewriting process, and definitely in that process with Dr. Murray, if it was day or night. It was just this hyper focus of going into an experience, and talk about deep listening, and a lot of tears, a lot of, it's not an easy or comfortable thing to be witnessed in your own unknowing and limitations and learning. And that's been happening in spades. And I can say that Dr. Murray held such a beautiful, safe, and sacred space with me as she guided me.
That is a little bit about your entire creative life. You're touching on this process that you had, you know, this aspect of Dr. Murray and the aspect of writing. You know, you've been on stage, film, television, voiceover. You've hit, I mean, almost every medium. So, you know, when we think about you and your creative life, what does it mean to you? Can you talk about your creative life as a whole picture?
Well, ironically, I feel like I've barely dipped a toe in each medium. Just enough so that every time I don't know what in the world I'm doing. So there must be something I enjoy about coming to experiences as a beginner, because I don't have solid ground beneath me and my learning curve is so high. So I don't really know why things have unfolded the way they have. There was not a plan. There is still not a plan. It's the way things came through or came to me. A lot of it, I mean, yes, I have put myself out there, but I have not been very focused on making things happen, if that makes sense. But I have had a willingness. And I think that's a through line. And I also, you know, I was a stay-at-home mom for 14 years. And that is another way I did use my creativity. And I've come to realize by the ripe old age of 53 that I think for many of us, it's good and important for us to focus our creativity on creative work. Otherwise, it's going to go sideways. That we as human beings innately are creative beings. We are creating our reality. So a lot of my learnings have come the hard way, like many of us. And so I'm grateful for what I have learned so far, and I'm definitely continuing to learn. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah, and I think we're gonna maybe ask you 1 or 2 more questions. So while we're asking these questions, if you all want to start putting your questions in the chat, hopefully we've given you some food for thought, and really looking forward to hearing what kind of questions you want to ask. So David, you have anything else you wanted to put out there?
I have a question. Greta, when is the next time you'll write a character with a dialect?
Oh my gosh. So I'm working on the audiobook right now. And I'm like, why did I have to write a character with a dialect? So yeah, I think I'm being teased right about now. Laurie is going to be doing that audiobook with me, so we're super excited. I have gently started the sequel, which was also a surprise and started coming through like gangbusters the day this book went to the printer. So who knows, David, because I don't know. With this book, there was no structure, there was no outline, there was no plan. So it really was a deep listening and saying yes. So we'll see. We always do.
Speaking of the audiobook, what is your next creative endeavor?
Well, I'm doing that, and my greatest hope is to, particularly over this winter, really focus on the sequel. That is my greatest hope. And we'll see what else materializes. I'm putting myself out there and we'll see what happens.
Okay, so I'm starting to look in the chat for questions, and I think there's some stunned silence, crying, and people are very moved. So they're having trouble asking questions right now.
I will say I glanced through the chats as well, and the winner naming Greta's All My Children character was Tamara McDonough. Dory came in 1 minute later, I think, but it was Nurse Katie Kennicott. Is exactly who graced Pine Valley for that period of time.
Yes, and Michael Brainerd is here. He was Joey Martin. We were, I don't know, he was married anyway. It did not end well. And I also worked with Michael on the Ernie Pyle experiment. So
There, I just put Michael in the spotlight. So you know.
I mean, what a joy. You just never know. That was a long time ago. We were on the show together, and he came back into my life out of the blue and asked me to audition for the Ernie Pyle Experiment podcast, and we had an absolute ball. Yeah.
And Michael, can you tell us where to find the Ernie Pyle Experiment podcast? Because it's really fabulous, and I think that there are people here who...
It's on Apple, wherever you get your podcast. It's on Apple. It's also on the WFIU radio station in Bloomington, Indiana, on their webpage. If you just search Ernie Pyle Experiment, you'll find it.
And Michael created, directed, acted as Ernie Pyle. He's got it all.
Yeah,
true honor.
And I got to kiss Greta on TV. So I'm here to say that as well. It was good.
Oh,
I don't know if I was good, but she was.
It was in a dream sequence. Does that still count?
Well, Greta, you have got some questions, and they're really, really good. This is awesome. So Lisa Marie Napoli, I don't know if you can spotlight her, Laurie. In writing the book, there's an interesting cadence or rhythm that pulls in the reader, and also there are moments in the book where the timing is significant. What was your experience in your writing momentum of how your writing process evolved? You may want to read that question.
No, it's a great question. I just wonder how to answer something consciously that was unconscious. Yikes, nothing's coming to me. I hear you, and I think that I was receiving a rhythm, and I understand what you're saying, what I think you're saying, because it did move kind of in and out of spaces, like more internal at times, and then more external, almost like a scene between 2 or 3 individuals. And I don't know why it happened that way. I think I must experience life similarly. Because I do know sometimes whatever I'm focused on, I'm 100% there. So if I'm talking with someone, that's 100% what's happening. And if I'm in an internal experience, that is 100% happening. I will kind of lose sight of my surroundings. So that must be what it is. Thanks for the question.
Oh, and here's a great one. It is from Greg Carr. If the book is adapted into a screenplay, will you act in it?
I guess if I played one of the older characters.
You know what I say? Yes.
Okay, yes. Wow, that would be extraordinary. I would love to be a writer on it. And yes, I would act in it, sure. If someone cast me.
Well, we'll just save that clip at the beginning for your audition tape.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So we
yeah.
recorded it. So you're
Great.
first in line for the part if you want it, Greta.
Hilarious.
And if Greg Carr would like to insert one of his puns or daily jokes into the chat, he's welcome to do it.
That's good. We would welcome it.
Every day on
No.
Facebook.
Please no. Please no.
So here's one from Hannah. Can you talk about any rituals you created around your writing practice to help you with the active deep listening?
And I just want to pop in to say I'm glad that Hannah asked a question because I was hoping to spotlight Hannah's beautiful face. There you are,
Yeah,
Hannah.
Hannah. Oh my gosh. You're amazing. Okay, Hannah, my project manager. I don't know where I'd be without her. So the writing process and the rewriting process were very different animals for me. The writing process, honestly, I was living my life, and the story would come in and it wouldn't leave me alone until I wrote it down. And if I didn't write it down, it would come into my dreams and I would write it down. And then I would put it on the shelf for weeks, months, or years. And then it kept coming back. And the rewriting process was intentional. And I did notice that I was going through something similar. And, we were all at home. So I was at home. It was a very solitary experience. And I noticed that I was doing something naturally that I did when I was laboring in the births of my children. And I also had them at home. So I was kind of moving between spaces. And there was some sort of support and care I was creating for myself in that, and it was happening naturally. So maybe I would write on the couch, maybe I would write in bed, maybe I would take a bath. I never wrote at a desk. I would, man, when I got really deep into the writing, it's so easy to forget yourself, and then I'd run to the kitchen and eat for fuel and then go back and always have water by me. I would also walk daily. That's something that is so grounding for me. I just need that. So I guess that's the best way I can answer that question. And I would also reach out for support, as you know, Hannah, when I needed it, which sometimes was quite often.
Well, you have so many wonderful questions in the chat, and I think that we want to wrap things up, and then if you have some time to take some more questions, or maybe reach out to the people that and have some dialogue with them about these really beautiful questions they asked. Want to thank everybody so much and for coming and supporting Greta. And there is I am a fan, and if you are a fan, she has a creative newsletter. So I'm going to give you her website. It's GretaLind.com. So maybe, I don't know, David, maybe you could pop it in the chat while I look at this. So you can sign up for her newsletter and stay in touch and see what the next creative project is. And also her book, you can get it on Amazon. And there is a special offer pricing with the book launch going on right now for $10 through the end of today.
So the end of Wednesday, through the end of Wednesday.
The end of Wednesday.
So if you want to
September 22nd.
get a copy for
Okay.
yourself or copies for friends, there would be a less expensive way to do it.
Awesome. And then the best way, if you're thinking about the best way to support Greta, new authors are really dependent on reviews. So if you can read the book is number one, and then review it on Amazon. And, we're not authors. So if we read it and we say, great job, love the book, it doesn't have to be complicated. It's a great sign of support for the author and really, really important to making this book very successful. So everybody read the book and write your review. And then if you can paste it into Goodreads, if possible, that would be just icing on the cake. And we would love you for that.
And the most important thing is to write an honest, non-biased review. It can be very brief. Don't link yourself to me because they will remove it. But if you have it in your heart to write a review, it can be simple. It goes a long way.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us. Get out and enjoy the full moon tonight and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you to you all. All
Thank
my
you.
love.
And one more, can we do one more
Congratulations.
glass?
Yeah, one more
Yes.
glass. Cheers, everyone. Thank you for showing up in spades.
Thank you. Thank you for writing it.
And I think we can unmute everyone.
Yeah, everybody unmute.
As everyone
You
leaves. Can we put it back on gallery so I can see folks?
Oh, I still have people pinned. Okay, hold on. I'm going to unpin you and then you can remove yourself and pop in. I know. Here we are. Removing spotlights. We're all here. I'm going to stop the recording.